wintry afternoon to everyone. As Ray pointed out, Jaren's not here today, so we're going to do our best to make this successful in Jaren's absence. So if we stumble a little bit, know that Jaren brings a lot to the table sometimes that we're not compensating for. But with that being said, I do want to welcome everybody to this meeting of the Governor's Broadband Task Force. Enjoy your winter weather. We're going to get through a couple of presentations this morning. We're going to start with Rory doing some housekeeping work and also introducing a new face, I believe, at this point, right, Rory?
Yeah, so I'll just do housekeeping first and then make some introductions as well. So welcome everyone to the Governor's Task Force on Broadband Access. For recording purposes, today is December 14th, 2022. I'd just like to remind everyone that this is a public meeting and everything said here is public record, and please be aware that you are on mute or sometimes not on mute while you're speaking. A meeting agenda is available on the Public Service Commission website under the task force webpage. If you have questions, you can always ask me how to access that information. Also, again, please remember to make sure you're muted if you're not speaking, please. If you are a member of the public, we please ask that you keep your microphone muted until the public comment period, and then we'll welcome you to make a public comment at that time. I'll go ahead and do a roll call of all the members of the task force that are here. If you could please bear with me while I mispronounce your names, as I'm not as good at this as Jaren. Just maybe unmute and just say hello or let me know you're here as I go through this list. So first off, Chris Meyer.
Here.
Thanks, Chris. Biko Baker. All right, Marta Bechtel.
Bechtel, I'm here.
I'm sorry, Marta.
No, that's fine, Ray.
Brittany Beyer.
Here.
Thanks, Brittany. Sal Carranza. Shannon Clark. Lori Collins.
Here.
Thanks, Lori. Doug Cox.
Good afternoon, here.
Hi, Doug. Angie Dickinson.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Angie. Emily Dittmar.
And hello.
Celeste Flynn, I saw. Krish Herzong.
Here. You did a good job.
Oh, thank you. Justin Hebner. Not seeing Justin yet. Gail Hike.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Gail. Barbara Koldos.
I'm here.
Thanks, Barbara. State Senator Howard Markline, or perhaps any members of his staff. Jose Martinez.
Good afternoon, folks.
Hi, Jose. State Representative Beth Myers, or perhaps some members of her staff.
Hi, Rory, and I just want to take a second to say this will be my last meeting. I did not run for re-election, so my term will be up before this group meets again. And it has been an honor to with all of you. Keep up the great work. I'm really impressed with what this committee has been doing, and I look forward to seeing the results of your continued work. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Beth. It's been a pleasure to have you on the task force, and best of luck after your term ends. State Representative Jeffrey Mursaw.
Here.
Thanks, Jeff. State Senator Brad Paff. Rachel Shemlin.
Here.
Thanks, Rachel. Steve Schneider.
Here.
Thanks, Steve. Miss Michelle Schuler. No, Michelle. Brett Schupner. Sorry, Brett. I think I got there.
Present.
Thanks, Brett. Jennifer Schilling.
Here.
Chet Strebe. No Chet. And Chad Young.
Yes, good afternoon.
Hi, Chad. I'm going to go back through a couple we missed here. I think I just admitted Sal Carranza. Are you here today?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Sal. Dr. Biko Baker. Not seeing Shannon Clark. Justin Hebner. State Senator Howard Markline, State Senator Brad Paff, Michelle Schuler, Chet Strebe. I think I hit everyone, but if you are a member and I didn't call on you, let me know. All right, that's it. Now I'd just like to take a moment to introduce, we have a new division administrator here in the broadband office at the Public Service Commission. Our Joe Fontaine is here. He took over for Christy Nieto last month. So I just thought I'd give it this opportunity to introduce Joe and have him say a few words. Joe?
Yeah, thank you, Rory. I'll keep it brief, just to give a little bit of a basic introduction and how update you on how the transition is happening. I'm Joe Fontaine. I've been with the commission about 10 years. I started in energy efficiency with focus on energy. In the past couple of years, I've been a policy advisor, working mostly on clean energy issues like our roadmap to zero carbon. So I took over for Christy in November. Well, Christy moved to another role in the commission. So certainly coming in with some commission background, but relatively new to broadband. So I'm doing my best just to move along the learning curve as fast as I can here. I'm glad I'm able to make it today, hoping to stay for the full meeting and help myself get further up to speed. Certainly coming in fresh like that, one of my biggest immediate priorities is just to support folks like Rory, Alyssa, Jaren, the rest of the team, and continuing to do the good work they've already been doing. Hopefully continue to help more and more over time as I'm getting further up to speed, but mostly just empower and support the team to keep it up, supporting this task force, doing all the other work that they do. Glad to be here. Happy to keep learning. We'll be happy to get in touch with folks over time. So please reach out to me anytime, through the staff, if there's a reason you'd like to talk more directly with me, and I'll continue to stay engaged and get deeper into everything over time. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. I'll just rephrase that last part for Joe. If you want to give lots of compliments for the great work of the broadband office, you can feel free to contact Joe directly. He loves hearing those.
I've gotten a few of those already, so I'm happy to make the list longer.
Good. Thanks, Joe. With that, Chris, if it's okay with you, I think we'll jump right into public comment, see if any folks have anything they want to add to our conversation. Sounds good.
Rory, this is Brett from Reedsburg Utility.
Hi,
I
Brett.
wonder if I can make a comment here, something related to broadband expansion, but doesn't really hit one of the agenda items today.
Sure, absolutely.
I want to read a press release from Sauk County Sheriff's Department on Tuesday, November 22nd. So if you look at your calendar, that's 2 days before Thanksgiving. I had approximately 7:44. Sauk County Dispatch Center received a report of a motor vehicle crash on Highway 23 south of Valley View Road in the town of Franklin. It was reported that a vehicle had struck a pedestrian who was part of a utility crew performing work in the area, and that a male worker was deceased. First responding deputies on the scene located a crash between a 2003 Toyota Highlander and a 2012 Ford F450 with a utility trailer attached, loaded with equipment. Preliminary investigation showed that the utility worker, a 25-year-old male from Edgerton, Wisconsin, was outside his vehicle attempting to offload equipment when he was struck by the southbound Highlander. After the initial impact, the Highlander continued south down the roadway before rolling over and coming to rest at the middle of the southbound lane. The male worker was also found lying in the southbound lane, deceased. It goes on from there. I guess I just want to, so this was on one of our projects. The employee that was killed was working for a contractor we had hired. So I guess just a reminder to folks out there that there is a cost. There are costs to rural broadband and broadband expansion. This should not be one of them. So these utility projects, these fiber projects can stretch out for miles and can be on state highways, county roads, township roads. And we could have drill crews working ahead of a plow crew, and then they could be blowing fiber behind that, setting PEDs, stuff like that. So they go on can go on for quite a while. I guess just a reminder, slow down. If you see workers out there, if you see signs, put your phones down and pay attention. These workers deserve to go home to their family at the end of the night. And I'm sure this Thanksgiving meant something different to a few people. this year. So sorry, Chris, for starting the meeting out on a sour note, but I know you can bring it around.
Yeah, well, don't apologize. I think that's a really timely message given the weather today and the time of year that, the folks that are out making all of this possible, we get to sit in warm offices and talk about how we can do all these amazing things with broadband, but there's people that have to go out and do the physical work and they're in danger. And it's a thankless job. So thank you for reminding all of us of that, because we hear about that stuff on the radio, but we don't always see the picture of the family that's impacted like that. Obviously, it was very impactful to you. And so thanks for sharing.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. We appreciate that. And it's important to highlight the human cost and the commitment folks are making to this cause. And I just want to say, our hearts are with your family, the families of the victims, and also you and the team at Reedsburg Utility Commission. I hope you are staying strong and coping well with that loss. Thanks for sharing. All right, with that, I will move on to public comment. At this time, I will ask members of the public, they may unmute themselves and make a brief comment. I ask that the comment remain brief and pertain to the subject of broadband access. If you are not comfortable making a public comment, there's other ways you can do it. You can leave a message in the chat, or you can reach out to our email inbox, and that information is provided on our website as well. So with this time, I would ask right now, please, if you're a member of the public and you'd like to make a public comment, please step up at this time.
Hi, this is August Neverman, and I'm making comment regarding the FCC broadband mapping service, and specifically the fact that they've denied speed tests as part of the process. The law actually uses the word actual speed, and I don't know how we're going to measure actual speed without speed tests. So I don't know where to go with the challenge for that. This group maybe is an entity that could challenge it so that there's not lots of little challenges. Maybe the state of Wisconsin might have comment regarding that. The state has done a lot of hard work on speed tests, and so has a lot of individual entities. And that's all been shared up through the PSC, and they've done great work. And that, for all practical purposes, is being skipped. So I just wanted to make comment on that, and I'll probably follow it up because I don't know exactly how to articulate it, but I just wanted to make comment regarding it.
Thanks, August. Certainly, we appreciate the comment, and we hope you can stick around for our conversation about the FCC challenge and availability process later in this presentation. I'll make another opportunity here now, a second chance for public comment. If there's any other members of the public that want to make a comment, please unmute yourself and you're welcome to comment now. All right, last call for public comment, please. If you're a member of the public and have a comment, please feel free to step in right now. All right, Chris, I'm not hearing anyone else interested in making public comment at this time. I'll just add that reminder again. Feel free to drop a public comment in the chat, or if you would like, you can send us an email or give me a call, and we can make sure that your public comment is included as part of the record. Thanks, Chris. With that, I will pass it along to you and move to our next steps.
All right, thank you, Rory. So item number 3 on our agenda is going to be a presentation from Northwoods Technical College. This will be about 30 minutes. I'm going to hand it over to Kristen to give us some perspective to think about as we listen to this presentation. And it says that Chris will introduce the members, but I don't know who's on the call. So I'm going to ask each of them after Christy does her little piece to do a brief introduction to the group so we know who we're speaking with. With that, I'll hand it over to Kristen to talk about the specific lens we should be thinking about viewing this conversation through. Kristen?
Thank you very much, Chris, and thank you to the guests that are speaking with us here today. We appreciate the time you're spending with us and the knowledge that you'll share. For task force members, as we're listening to this, let's keep our minds focused on what might be some of the pain points with regards to workforce development around broadband. What are our opportunities around broadband workforce, and who do we need to include as part of the conversation? So these are 3 of the things that we'll be discussing as we debrief from the speakers we're about to listen to. Obstacles and opportunities in workforce, and who needs to be part of the conversation as we're moving forward. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our guest speakers today. And like you, Chris, I'm not sure who's our first, the name of our first speaker. So, and I apologize for that.
Well, I'll just kick us off and get us started. So hello, everyone. My name is Alicia Crow. I'm the Vice President of Academic Affairs at Northwood Technical College, and I'm talking to you today from my living room as we closed the Rice Lake campus due to the inclement weather today. So it's great to be here, and I am very appreciative of the opportunity to chat with you. So I will turn it over to my colleagues at Northwood Tech to give them just a chance to introduce themselves too, so you can see who's on the call with us. So Paul, why don't you go ahead and go next?
Sounds good. I'm Paul Costner. I'm one of the Broadband Academy instructors at Northwood Tech, and Alicia and I will be going back and forth during this presentation. So I'm excited about giving it. I think Dan, are you on?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I'm the coordinator for the Broadband Academy. I work with Paul, and I'm kind of in charge of promoting the program and helping out students as they transition into the program. And I think BJ's on with us right now as well.
Yeah, hey, BJ Williams, Associate Dean in Continuing Ed. I work with Dan, Paul, and Alicia to do whatever we can to help get this program out there and promote it and make sure that the experts have what they need. So without further ado, Paul, take it away.
All right, Alicia, if you give me a second, I'll start sharing. Oh, host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh.
Is there a way you can allow that?
We can. Rory is, I believe,
Let
granting
me
access
see
right.
here. Let's see.
The first technology challenge of the meeting without Jaren.
All
here,
right.
Sorry, which person wants to share their screen?
Paul Costner, yeah.
I think I did it. I think I made it so anybody can screen share, but please don't abuse it, guys. Is that working, Paul? There we go.
You got it?
Yep. We're seeing the slides with your notes.
Oh, you are. I'm not sure how I do this.
Maybe top left display settings.
Display settings. How's that? Still seeing those?
Still looks the same.
Looked like the right button, swap presenter view and slideshow.
Why? Here, let's do this once. Let's try this again. Yes.
Hey, there you go.
Better?
Oh, wait. Now that looks like it might just be the, go ahead and click to the next slide. Yep, there we go. Now we got it. Great. Thank
Okay.
you so much, Paul.
Looks good.
So again, thank you everyone for the opportunity to be here. On behalf of our college president, John Will, we appreciate the time to share information with you today about the college. So I'm just going to do a brief introduction of the college and what it is that we do from a broad perspective, and then I'll turn it over to Paul to speak more specifically about a broadband training at our college. So for those, many of you are likely familiar with the Wisconsin Technical College system. For those of you who are and may be wondering what is Northwood, we had a name change last year. So our college was formerly called Wisconsin Indian Head Technical College, and we became Northwood Technical College last year. And we serve all or parts of 11 counties in Northwest Wisconsin as one of the 16 technical colleges in the system. We do have campus locations in Ashland, New Richmond, Rice Lake, and Superior, as well as 3 outreach centers throughout our district. And most recently, we brought online the Shell Lake Health Education Center, which we opened this past academic year. In addition to having those locations, we offer courses in not only face-to-face, but also in online format, online live format, and then a variety of hybrid manners in which students can access our institution. While this slide talks about being a top-ranked college and shows some of the areas where our institution has received national recognition for our success, what's most important to me to share with you with regards to our success is our most recent information from our student satisfaction inventory. which is a survey of our current students to see their what's important to them at an institution and their level of satisfaction. And our college recently received our results, and our both our what is important to them as well as their satisfaction with our institution. We ranked our students ranked us higher than our cohort of Wisconsin technical colleges, as well as with our cohort nationally. So we're very proud of the work that we're doing in giving the students the education that they seek and helping them to succeed in their future careers. So we'll go ahead and go on to the next slide. Again, what you know mostly about the technical colleges probably is that we have programming and training for career. And our colleges exist across the state of Wisconsin, and Northwood is no exception, to meet the workforce training needs of the region that we serve. And so we develop our programs based on industry input. And as you can see by this slide, we have over 100 associate degree, technical diploma, and certificate programs. And I would add, we also have short-term micro-credentials and badging programs as well, which we'll talk a little bit about more later in the presentation if you don't know what those are. But our industry input comes from our advisory committees, and we just recently compiled our data with respect to our advisory committees. We have 69 advisory committees at our college with over 800 members. Those are employers and employees at the businesses that we serve throughout our district. And one thing that I really want to highlight today, and I think it's particularly relevant with respect to the broadband conversation that's been going on with this task force, as well as in our country and in our states and in our local communities, is the need for real-time ready training. Both our students and our employers seek training that is beneficial to them now. And that's why we've started to really look at micro-credentials, look at badging programs, look at that training that helps colleges meet that employment need today, but also have those stacked credentials. That's a word we use in higher ed. That means that if a student leaves our college and works in industry, they can come back, and as they gain credentials, those take them on a path towards advanced degrees. So when I talk about badging and I talk about micro-credentials, I'm talking about providing that training that gets them the skill to get out into the workforce, but that also aligns into a technical diploma program or an associate degree program. And that associate degree program then has a transfer agreement with one of our local university partners, which puts those students into a 4-year degree program and earning a bachelor's degree and so on and so forth. So we are very mindful of ensuring that our training provides them what they need now, but also helps to continue to train them and develop them in the future. So you heard from BJ on the call. BJ is one of our members of our workforce and community development team. And we have representatives throughout our district on that team whose role is to meet with our workforce, with our employers, and really help to develop those industry programs that are important at the time. And through those partnerships, we're able to meet current need. And so today, Paul is going to talk to you about a new badging program that we've developed. And we recently entered into a partnership with the NTCA on this broadband badging program. And it's designed, like I said, to train the workers who are needed now, but then also give them that opportunity to continue to develop their skills as they work in employers. So I'm just, as you can tell, when I start to talk about the college, I get super excited. I've spent a large portion of my career now in the Wisconsin Technical College system, and I think the need is now for us to continue to train the workforce. This sector, as well as many other sectors, has a shortage of workers. The continuing conversation of retiring of the folks who have been in the workforce, and also the desire to expand broadband in our communities. We know there's significant investment in infrastructure development, and we've been really working hard as a college to prepare the training that's needed to help get the skills out there in the workforce. So I'm going to turn it over to Paul as our lead instructor in the program. He is a wealth of knowledge about broadband training, and there's been a core group of us at the college who've been meeting over the last year to develop our programming. And I'll let Paul talk to you a little bit about that and get you up to speed on what we're working on, and then we'll both be around if there's questions at the end. So Paul, to you.
Thank you, Alicia. And thank you all for inviting us to this presentation and showing what Northwood Technical College and our broadband training opportunities we have for everyone. Just to give you a little history, we've been doing broadband telecommunications training since 1973. We started with telephone and service repair and cable TV programs in the 80s. And it's just been, we're one of the unique training opportunities for the broadband and telecom industries. We're recognized, throughout the country as doing and providing training. In 2016, There was a Department of Labor impact grant, which actually started and made the creation of the Broadband Academy for offering classes online. We had a focus group with WSTA members on what needs to be offered and what type of competencies and skill sets we want to provide, and then also make this an online portion for individuals to take this, whenever it's available for them. In 2017, the Academy has had over 250 students, and we've served 9 different states taking online classes. In the Academy, we offered 3 different tiers of training. Our level 1 customer service. This is new training for individuals that are new to the broadband industry. Okay, and it's an opportunity for individuals that have little or no experience in the broadband industry to see how this industry got evolved and where it's going. So our 101 courses are basic entry-level courses. They're 8-week courses. There's step-by-step process that you can go through these courses, in that short-term time frame. Our level 2, we get more technical for the installers and technicians. Some of the courses like our cable installation on our broadband fiber installation. We get into the IT and security. We have a fiber outside plant design. And once again, this is evolving with as you go in your training. Our level 3, we get into the networking specialists. We have the Cisco certifications. We have wireless, network and security, and information security. So it's a growing, and one thing nice about this, it's all a la carte, and you can take these depending on where your experience is. So some of the advantages, okay, the classes are self-paced. They're open 24/7 through our Blackboard online delivery. You can pick and choose classes that you need. There's certain individuals that don't handle or don't need some of the aspect in the industry, so they could pick the ones that meet their skill sets and their needs to get trained on. No set time for students to be online. So like I said, it's open web delivery. Access to instructors for questions and curriculum issues are always on. We also have, like I said, Dan introduced himself. He's a helpful person for any type of registration, or even with curriculum if there's an issue with that as well. This is a great onboarding tool for training new to the field. Opportunities for those who want advancement opportunities within their company. One of the other types of broadband training is our registered apprenticeship, our broadband service technician. This had gotten developed by the DWD and our program, and we had a DACM focus group as well to provide or create an apprenticeship program, 12 months, okay, 2,000 hours and 144 hours of related instruction. It's also online delivery. We have 2 courses, our broadband installation and our broadband support and repair. And once again, this was all done through a DACM study with WSTA members. They wanted to have an apprenticeship program that they could hire someone within their community. And once again, with the apprenticeship, you have kind of a contract between the employer and the apprentice themselves. Some of the competencies that these apprentices will go over is to install customer services, repair services and networks, install network elements, maintain networks, and perform sales and customer service. Now, how did we get to these competencies? Once again, our DACM study with all our focus groups and all our associate members through WSTA created this. And it's been a very successful tool for companies to start individuals through their apprenticeship. And then after the apprenticeship, they can grow and take different pathways through our Broadband Academy. Employers' qualifications. So we have to train the apprentices in all mandatory duties. They have to supervise and train apprentices at all times. employ at least one full-time skilled worker that will be training or at least mentoring the apprentice during their on-the-job work. They'd be certified in telecom provider in Wisconsin under the categories of competitive local exchange carriers, incumbent local exchange carriers as well. For the applicants, they have to be at least 17 years old, high school graduate or equivalent, have a driver's license, and physically able to perform the work for the everyday accommodations. Another partnership that we've just started is with the Broadband Academy, is with NTCA or Rural Broadband Association. NTCA represent approximately 850 small locally operated broadband providers who expect to face demands in labor and stuff like that as well. And we've kind of always been in partnership, but now we are developing this new partnership with NTCA to provide these apprenticeship-like training with them to meet the rural broadband needs. There's a lot of retirements coming up, as Alicia said, and they're seeing that, and they want to, if not hire someone with the experience, but either grow them from their hometown. Okay, kind of similar to our apprenticeship, but this is through 46 states, and I think, like you said, 850 different companies that are part of this. So taking our, being the partner with Northwood Tech and the Academy, this is another opportunity that we're going to be providing online service for them as well. Once again, we're starting off with the levels 1 and 2, and then they also have the a la carte options, and they'll be utilizing same as our Broadband Academy courses. The partnership is also, we created this with a digital badge credentialing. And Northwood Tech and NTA members are identifying the core competencies in the hands-on apprenticeship-like training, and corresponding badges uses existing apprenticeship hands-on competencies. Okay, once again, all classes will be online, allowing courses to complete without a cost or disruption of travel or scheduling inconvenience. Achieve results-oriented goals, employee training, provides incentives for workers, employees to earn recognized industry credentials. And that's not only with Northwood Tech, that's with NTCA as well. Other prospective employers define categories of skilled workers where proficiencies can be matched a common set of standards. So besides our Broadband Academy, besides the partnership with NTCA, we also have a telecommunications industry registered apprentice program, TIRAP. Okay, and we have actually 2 different programs with. One is our overhead utility installer technician program, and the other one is our underground utility installer program. And this is working with contractors that are putting in the physical fiber optic cable plant. They are in dire need of qualified individuals as well. So this is another opportunity that we're providing training, and they're with on the job and related instruction that we're providing with Northwood Technical College. And these are the 2 programs, and these are the courses and the completed related instruction hours for those. Once again, we have the overhead and underground installer programs, and these are the courses that they'd be taking. Like I said, this is another opportunity that Northwood Tech works with, a variety of different companies, and this is just helping out with the contractors meeting their needs and skill sets. And here's our contact information. So we have BJ, and we have Eric, and myself, and Dan, and Alicia. I'm sorry I didn't put you on here. So with that, I'm going to open the floor for any questions or anything like that regarding anything that you saw today.
Well, first of all, thank you, Alicia, Paul, Dan, and BJ for the presentation. What questions might we have for our panelists?
Hey, Chris, this is Jose. Question for Paul. Thank you, Paul, for your presentation. Very informative. And certainly, you guys are doing wonderful work in terms of looking at what the needs are out there and creating these very compressed type of training programs that can put individuals through a training program. You mentioned the various types of certification that individuals could acquire when they go through this type of training. Are these certifications only recognized in the state of Wisconsin, or are these nationally recognized certifications?
We do have some nationally recognized certifications. In some of it, you know, we have the OSHA 10 licensures and so forth. But through our data cabling, we use Electronics Technician Association. So that's another industry or recognized training for our data cabling and our fiber optics. The other certifications that you're going to get in our IT aspect of it is the Cisco certification. So once you get through those Cisco classes and pass those certification exams, those are another type of certification.
I would also add to, if I could just jump in, the badging credentials that we're developing, they're currently in development with NTCA. And it is the plan with that development that those credentials will be recognized across the NTCA membership across the US.
Excellent. My second and final question is, these compressed trainings, do they essentially lead to maybe credit hours, attainment of credit hours with a technical college that could essentially lead to an AA degree or a BA degree in the field of information technology or different fields?
Depending on, you know, I guess it all depends on the transferability. You know, the technical aspect of it, there's usually technical competencies that each program has. So that's on a per base, I guess, individual and advisement on where they're going and how that works with how they're going to advance to those career or different AA or bachelor's degree.
And I would add to that too. I think if you look specifically at those IT credentials that Paul mentioned, those are the same courses that the students who are in our IT associate degree take.
Right.
So we would give for those students who are completing that as part of the broadband program, we would give them credit for prior learning for those courses and give them credit as they were to transition into an IT program.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that as you were thinking about creating these very compressed type of training programs, you also kept credits in the back of your mind. So if an individual wanted to pursue an AA, they have a feasibility to continue to do so and continue to build in their education. Wonderful. Thank you.
Brittany, you have a question?
I do, Paul. Thank you for your presentation. So I live in a different technical college area, and in conversations with them, we've talked about your program. And one of the items that was brought up is that the technical colleges, and I'm sure this is the same in your situation, it's related to the job needs of the area, right? And so if we don't show that broadband technicians are needed right now, there's not an easy way to tie it in unless you're talking to the providers. And so I was wondering, what was your process on that side? And then you referenced that you have students from other states and now you're working with national entities. And I'm wondering how you're able to match that with the mission of the technical college. And I believe it's all great work, but I really love to see how to make that pathway for other colleges.
Sure. I guess your first question, you're looking for how do we build the relationship with the actual broadband provider? Is that correct? Or am I mistaken?
It's slightly different. It's the technical college is coming to the point of deciding what curriculum will be developed, and it needs to reflect what is given by DWD as the need in the area. And when it doesn't show up that way, what were some of the steps that you took in order to?
Okay, so what we work with DWD, and when we did the registered apprenticeship, our broadband service technician, and doing the DACM, and we developed that apprenticeship with that consortium or that focus group that met all the Wisconsin state registered apprenticeship guidelines. And that's how that one was developed. The other ones we developed through the Department of Labor Impact Grant for short-term training. And once again, we had a focus group of industry recognized individuals, and Chad Young, who's on here, he was one of those individuals that helped out with getting the curriculum and the competencies and so forth that met the industry needs.
And the other side of it is maybe it's for Alicia. How are you reconciling the fact that you're working with out of state students and working on these larger projects? How is it sitting alongside? I'm just interested in that because I think that's where some of the projects are going to go.
Yes, I think to your point of our mission, and I shared the slide at the beginning with the 11 county district that we serve, and because we have the program developed and we know that this is a local need, we obviously are providing that training for that local need. But we also, when approached by partners who are saying we have this need across our country, this is a skill set that we have, a training that we've developed, and we have the ability to offer. And I think one of the values is, one of the transitions, and technical colleges have been good at this for a very long time, but the transitions of the activities of the last couple of years have really made us have that ability to offer online education. And so the broadband badging program, the classroom portion of that is online. And so being able to provide that access to students regardless of where they are is something that we can do. I think another aspect that's important to us as an institution is we're a rural serving institution. And what we're hearing from the folks in the NTCA and from our employers, and I think this also speaks to your question about how do you determine local need. Our rural service providers are small. They have small numbers of employees needed. And so it's not like we have an employer coming to us saying, I need 400 of these people at my plant here in this community. It's I'm a small service provider and I need 1 or 2 technicians. And so we believe that's also part of our mission in serving rural communities. And there are many rural communities across the country who have this need. So obviously we've established it for Northwest Wisconsin, but we can expand to that opportunity elsewhere.
Thank you.
This is Chad Young. I just wanted to weigh in and let folks know that this program through Northwood Tech is really a fantastic opportunity. And it's something that's been nationally recognized, which I don't know if everybody knows recently, as John Will attended a White House event where actually Northwood Tech was acknowledged through the Talent Pipeline Challenge. And this is something that is needed throughout the United States. But like Alicia was saying, a lot of us providers do not have hundreds of employees, but we do have a significant need to put folks through this type of training. And we've had a number of our employees go through it. And I can tell you, it really is a fantastic program, and anything that I can do to help support the growth of this, I think it's a good thing for our country and for the growth of broadband. So just thank you to all the Northwood Tech folks.
Thank you, Chad. Lori, you have a question. Your mic's muted, Lori.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry. So I own a small ISP in Eagle River, and I echo what Chad just said in that we don't need a ton of technicians. However, because we contract out our fiber plant installation, the contractors need competent installers for that fiber plant. So it isn't just the broadband providers themselves, but the contractors that they hire to do all of this installation work. So I just wanted to throw that out there that there are, and I know you're aware of this, but I'm sharing this with the group here, that's a lot of where this area's workers are needed, is at the contractor level.
Absolutely, Lori. Very good comment. That's completely true. And a lot of their staffs are a lot larger than ours. They have a lot more employees, and they do have a need for training for all those folks who are the ones who are actually doing the construction. So good comment, Lori.
Yeah, thank you both. I wanted to point out that Angie Dickinson did put in the chat a link to some scholarships on the Wisconsin State Telecommunications Association website. I suspect those are academic scholarships for people who want to participate in this sort of training. So interesting resource if any of you are interested. Do we have other questions?
This is Steve Schneider. Just curious if there's coordination of the program with some of the labor groups. We use pretty exclusively the Operating Engineers Union out of Wautoma, who has some training facilities more on the equipment side, but it seems like this would be very useful to some of the union training programs. And we're looking at 100 employees out of that group. So was just curious if that type of coordination has occurred.
Well, one of the associations that through the TIRAP apprenticeship program, we work with the Power Communications Contractors Association. And that is a variety of contracting companies throughout the United States. And that's one of the partners that we do with the TIRAP for that actual construction aspect of it. The unions, we do work with the IBEW 953. That's I do believe out of the Eau Claire area. And they provide a scholarship for our program as well. And some of the online training and services also.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just have a very quick question. I don't know if it's related or not, but I noticed in your last program that you showed that it showed that they would also get the CDLA license. Is that a requirement? Would they get it through the program? That's a very comprehensive license that they would be
right. Well, through the TIRAP apprenticeship, we're providing the related instruction for that. So what they're going to do is they're going to get the theory portion of our CDLA or licensure, and then they will. We kind of work with them depending on where they're from, because we do have others from other states taking this related instruction online. We will see, if they're close in our region, we will provide the behind the wheel training for that. If not, we'll try to coordinate behind the wheel training with other colleges or training facilities that meet the federal guidelines.
Exactly. That was my question, because if they have a lot of online opportunity, that has to be actually in place.
Right.
So that they can get it appropriately. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the comments, everyone. We want to stay on task today. If you do have other comments, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll be happy to relay them to the panelists today and get some answers for you. But I want to thank, I wrote your names down so I wouldn't mess them up this time. Alicia, Paul, Dan, and BJ, again, for your time today talking to us about this really cool program you have. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
All right, next up is another presentation. This is going to be a panel discussion. We have about 30 minutes for this. I will be introducing the panelists, and those panelists are, and again, apologies in advance if I mispronounce any names, please feel free to correct me. Megan Strichko, Policy Advisor, Wisconsin Technical College System. Rebecca Heath, Reentry Employment Program Manager, Wisconsin Department of Corrections. And Rhonda Suda, Chief Executive Officer, Southwest Wisconsin Workforce Development Board. Please welcome Megan, Rebecca, and Rhonda, and please tell me if I mispronounced your names.
No, it's good for me.
Thank you. We have a number of questions here that I will ask, and feel free to take the time that you need to answer them. The first one is an easy one. Could you please take a few minutes to introduce yourself and describe what it is your organization does and your specific role in regards to workforce development?
This is Rhonda. I'll go first. I am the executive director of the Southwest Wisconsin Workforce Development Board, which operates workforce development programs in Grant Green, Iowa, Lafayette, and Richland counties. We work with 2 technical colleges for a lot of our vocational training, and that would be Blackhawk Tech in Janesville and Monroe, and then Southwest Technical College primary campus is in Fenimore, and then they have outreach sites in all of their other 5 counties. I mean, I think, you know, like in today's discussion, you know, one of the things I think everybody realizes is that, you know, everybody wants, I kind of put it as like everybody wants Jimmy. We want Jimmy working here. We want Jimmy going to school here. Grandma wants Jimmy shoveling her driveway. And, if Jimmy is 19 years old, mom needs him to mow the lawn. And that's really the workforce shortage in a nutshell. And that's a competitive nature, I think, that we'll face all industries going forward, and definitely within the next decade.
Hi, I can jump in next if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Well, you heard, my name is Megan Strichko. I'm a policy advisor with the Wisconsin Technical College System. So you've heard from Northwood Technical College, and they're part of a system of technical colleges. So there are 16 technical colleges throughout the state. They cover the entire statewide region. About 250,000 students annually go through those tech colleges. So at the system level, we're really more the coordinating and oversight body. And then the tech colleges are each governed kind of by their own local technical college district board. So those district boards really do kind of the day-to-day operations. A lot of the programming decisions that we've talked about already is kind of happening at that district board level. And so as far as their role in workforce development, I think it's really kind of what you heard already. It's delivering that education and training really in alignment with what their local industry needs are. So you heard from Northwood, the use of their program advisory committees. The colleges pretty regularly look at their curriculum, and they approve and modify and remove programs to make sure that it's in line with what those labor market needs are. So I think they're very responsive, and that's really one of their main missions. And then for us at the system level, it's really more at a higher level.
Thank you, Megan. And Rebecca.
Yes, good afternoon. Becky Heth, I'm with the Reentry Unit, which is in the Department of Corrections in the Secretary's office. So as a whole, the Wisconsin DOC works to protect the public by managing those in our charge. And while they're incarcerated, we offer educational programming and treatment that helps someone learn the skills to be successful upon their release to the community. So more than 95% of the individuals in our care will return to their communities. So the public is best served if we hold those people accountable for their actions, but also provide them an opportunity to learn new skills and become a law-abiding citizen. So from the Reentry Unit, there's a couple different initiatives that my unit, myself, help kind of oversee. So the first two are with a partnership with the Wisconsin Technical College System to deliver short-term vocational training programs. And one way we do that is through mobile training labs. So we currently have 5 mobile training labs, welding, CNC, mechatronics, placed at different institutions across the state. So we contract for the local colleges in that institution's region to deliver those trainings in a high demands field. And then the second avenue of vocational training that we offer through the Reentry Unit is career and technical education academies. And with those academies, they're offered at facilities in which individuals are granted work and study release. So they're actually able to leave the facility and attend classes on site at the local technical college. So I know we have Northwood on the call, so we've partnered with them for the past few years to deliver some trainings. We actually have one scheduled coming up in the spring to deliver construction fundamentals training with individuals that are currently housed at Gordon Correctional Center. So that's just one example, but we offer those throughout the state. And then our third employment program that we offer is the Windows to Work program. So we contract with the 8 workforce development boards to deliver the Windows to Work program. And that is a pre and post release employment program. So Rhonda's on the call, her team partners with us to deliver that program. And then our last initiative are our DOC institution job centers. So we've created job centers within our facilities to allow individuals in our care to search, for jobs, find what's a good fit for them, and receive services from DWD job service staff. So those staff actually come into our facilities and provide those services while someone is still incarcerated. And that helps to assist them as they release back into the community. So oftentimes we're finding many people are applying for jobs before they even get out and have a job offer. So they've already secured that employment. So that's kind of the 4 kind of key reentry vocational training programs that my office, my team helps to implement.
Thank you, Becky. And the next question for all 3 of you is a little bit long, so I'll read through it. The broadband expansion is dependent on service providers, network contractors, and construction companies having access to skilled labor. In order to meet the increased demand for skilled labor, there needs to be 3 things, right? A viable pipeline of talent, programs, training, and curriculum in place, and connection to employers looking for talent and making commitments to hire that talent. Given this context, are there gaps in Wisconsin's ability to produce skilled labor? And if so, where?
This is Rhonda. I think, you know, and I'm going to just throw this out here, like on behalf of our technical colleges, we have such a great system that it's so incredibly flexible and is able to meet the demands of our employers to the extent of having the infrastructure. What we don't have is people. So when you look at it in general, and I would say this across the board, right now I think there's 2 primary pipelines that we're looking at, and that's our pipeline that of individuals that are coming out of incarceration. They're going to be returning to our communities, and they need opportunities. And then we have our pipeline of high school graduates. So for example, in Rock and Greene County, we graduate in those 2 counties alone about 2,000 kids every year. What are we doing what are we, not only a workforce board, a technical college system, but every industry and every employer, what are they doing to connect to those kids? And I would even go as far to say is that if you connect with the kids at their junior and senior level, you're actually late, and engaging with our K-12 system before that as soon as possible, whether that is, you know, attending, you know, career knowledge fairs, whether it's sponsoring a school, participating in drives, you know, talking with the staff, but then students' families about occupations that are available within an industry. You know, that's kind of where it begins. And we have to keep people in Wisconsin. We don't attract people to Wisconsin very well. We train people in Wisconsin really, really well, and then we let them escape. You know, all over the United States, we just, yep, take him, take her, you know, whatever. But people are going to stay, especially our young workforce will say if they're embedded in the community and they have an opportunity to make a decent living at a young age. And then through career pathways and, you know, additional credentialing, they can move up in whatever occupation that they select. And so we have that infrastructure. We need the people. We're not very good at attracting people. So we have to, everybody that is here in Wisconsin, you know, we have to actively take steps to keep them in the state.
Yeah, to kind of dovetail on that, I think Rhonda mentioned that the technical colleges can deliver that like education and training infrastructure. And I think the bones are there, right? Like we heard from Northwood, kind of great examples of some programming that they're doing up there to address those needs. I know Northeast Wisconsin Technical College has a new telecommunications, some programming in telecommunications. That's an associate's degree and some technical diplomas. That's new. I think it might have just gone in this fall. So I think one of the wonderful things about the technical colleges is that they're very collaborative. They all share information, they share lessons learned. So the fact that several colleges have multiple educational models kind of in development already means that there's kind of a path to expand that infrastructure more widely. I think those bones are there. One of the questions I think for Northwood was kind of around this question of local demand. So, you know, as I talked about in the beginning, the tech colleges are locally governed and really responsive to their local communities. And so I think to the extent that there can be data from industry or from partners involved in broadband expansion that can really point to what those job needs are going to look like within a technical college district or even a region of the state. I think that data is really essential in those colleges, kind of determining what those education and training needs are in their local communities. And then I think also to Rhonda's point, like we are hearing from so many different industries that they need skilled labor. So unfortunately, I don't think broadband is alone in looking for skilled talent. I think that that's reaching multiple industries throughout the state. There's just kind of like a pipeline issue more broadly within the state. And so the tech colleges are getting a lot of calls from a lot of different industries. How can we get more workers? How can we get them trained? So I think, you know, as they're kind of dealing with those multiple demands and also trying to support those students and move them through the pipeline, you know, we've got students that have support needs from mental health to food insecurity, transportation issues. So I think, you know, the colleges are kind of working on multiple fronts to address all these needs. So to the extent that there can be additional resources or partnerships to help them kind of fight on multiple fronts, I think that'll be really essential. I know at the system level, our biennial budget request to the governor was to expand state aid, increase that state aid amount for the technical colleges so they had additional resources to meet all those different needs.
All right. So yeah, I think from our perspective, the department releases 9,000 individuals each year that are returning to their community. So there's certainly a pipeline, and we continue to seek out opportunities for those that are justice involved to prepare them for the workforce. So I think it was mentioned by both individuals before me, but the strategic collaboration with our partners is really an important factor in where we actually see the most success. So collaborating with our workforce boards, with DWD, with the tech colleges. So when we do offer programs, we're all at the table and there to support the individual and their specific needs. So it could be someone is really just interested after their release in obtaining employment, but then they also have a transportation issue. So that could be something that, you know, our DWD partners or workforce board partners could assist them on, or food insecurities. So it's really this collaborative approach that I think we've strengthened throughout the year, certainly on DOC's end with our community partners and the programs that we offer. So I think that's one piece to it. And then I think continuing to speak with employers and really educating them and discussing, you know, their views and stance on hiring justice involved, because I think there's certain maybe misconceptions. And so I think with the group that I talked about having that strategic collaboration is pulling in local employers. And oftentimes we do that with some of our training programs with the tech colleges, as we'll have employers in that region come in and they're working and part of the training process with the DOC students. So they get to see firsthand like the skills that they're learning, but B, what a valuable asset this person could be, although they're justice involved. They can still be a very big contribution to someone's company after they're released, or even while they're released, as we do have certain facilities that allow individuals to maintain employment in the community while they're still incarcerated. So I think just continuing with the strategic collaborations.
Thank you. Thank you, all three. One more longer question here, but it's broad, so you can feel free to ad lib here as you discuss. Workforce development is a key component of Wisconsin's broadband planning effort, especially when you consider that significant amounts of funding will be coming to extend broadband access, affordability, and adoption. In your eyes, how best can Wisconsin set ourselves up for success? Please feel free to take this any direction you'd like, but some thought-provoking examples might include how we can best help employers identify candidates and recruit from local and regional training providers, or how we might support efforts to connect to historically underrepresented and marginalized groups and or communities that are seeking career opportunities. So that's a long question. If you have any questions, but I can repeat it. But really, we're asking, what is it that we need to be doing right now to make sure that as this money comes in, and we know we are going to need a workforce to install broadband, what can we be doing?
Two things that come to my mind right away. So there's 11 workforce boards in the state of Wisconsin. They don't align with economic development per se. But there's tons of workforce development programs. Not all of them go through a workforce development board, but we're charged with operating the one-stop system. So that exchange of job seeker to employer, employer requirements in regard to training to the job seekers that are available. So a connection, whether it's outreach to, all of the, local board directors, or maybe it's having a conversation with the Wisconsin Workforce Development Association about kind of specific needs. And the other reason to do that is all of these boards have access to training funds. So if there is this, if you've got the body, but you don't necessarily, the body doesn't have the skills, right? The workforce board has the resources to pay for those skills within limits, but they do have a lot of resources. The other one, and I stress this, and it goes back to this idea of how many kids, whether on a statewide scale, it's huge or not, but we do have kids that are graduating every single year. And a way to connect with them is through the statewide youth apprenticeship program. So it gets juniors and seniors actually in your door as your employee, training in their last 2 years of high school, so that the goal is that they're going to have a regular full-time job with you, or with a company after their high school graduation. It's a very solid program in the state of Wisconsin. There's on-the-job training. There could be, related instruction at the high school, related instruction at the technical college, a whole kind of gamut of whatever is needed that employer identifies. So it's making those connections a lot of times. And if companies start at the state level, right, they're going to have to go through several filters to get down to the local services. And so I really recommend maybe sharing the information on all of the 11 workforce development boards, understanding the kind of the different programs. And again, like I said, they have the resources, the funding resources to help with training, to help offset the cost of training related expenses, whether that's books or transportation or childcare costs. So there's a system that's already built in, and making connections to those local services through the workforce boards would be a great place to start.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Well, I guess I'll just keep going in the same order that we've been going for the rest of the questions. So I think one of the things that would set us up for success is to kind of think through a variety of education and training models to reach different types of students where they're at. So one way to do that, I think, is to look at some of those student populations that have been more underrepresented. In addition to some of the occupational education and training, tech colleges also do adult education. And so that can include things like building academic skills or trying to upskill to maybe shift careers. It also includes GED and high school equivalency classroom experience and English language learning. So, a lot of those folks are on the tech college campuses already doing that adult education training. So if there's an opportunity to kind of integrate some broadband related occupational training with some of those adult education courses, or even just kind of tap into that student population, I think that could be a potential place to look. We've heard from DOC that the tech colleges are also very involved with education and training to the justice involved population. So those folks that are in corrections or in reentry, they're doing a lot of adult education to that population, but I think that's also an opportunity to kind of work in some of the occupational training too. And then I think Northwood touched on this in their presentation. There'll be a big infrastructure build out, and I think we'll be thinking about kind of what those jobs are kind of in the short term to get that infrastructure put in, but also thinking about what some of the industry needs are going to be more long term and what our opportunities might be to try to stack those credentials or create pathways for students to kind of train for the jobs available now and also kind of build upon that and work towards more advanced job opportunities in the future as well.
All right, so I'm up last. I would say continuing, the DOC will continue to partner with the Workforce Development Board's area. So if there is an emphasis on, like Rhonda said, educating and reaching out and including the various workforce boards, because that's often from a DOC standpoint who we partner with for a lot of our employment initiatives. So I think if the education is there, we can continue to accurately and correctly refer people to their local workforce board to learn of these new training opportunities that might be occurring. I touched a lot on our currently incarcerated population, but we also have other individuals, clients that we serve that are out in the community, which is even a larger pool. So there could be some referrals that each region in the state has a employment programs coordinator, and that staff person is to refer individuals who are on supervision in the community to employment opportunities, training programs. And so including those individuals so that we're not excluding a pretty large chunk of our DOC clients that are already in the community, but continue to focus on that pre-release training programs that we currently are doing as well, and seeing where and if broadband training with one of our local tech colleges can fit into what we're delivering. Our mobile labs, like I mentioned, are they're tailored for a pretty specific program, but there could be future flexibility and discussions that occur with training individuals at the local campus in the field, of broadband access. So there, I think, is potential to collaborate further and explore where some of our pre-release training could be tailored to.
Thank you. One last question for each of you, and this is, again, an open-ended question. Is there anything else you want to make sure that we're aware of? Any final remark or emphasize anything you feel is relevant to this group?
I'm going to go really quick, and then I got to jump off because I have another meeting starting at 2:30. It really, the workforce supply and demand issue can't be ignored, and any project, in order for it to be successful, is going to have to really look at that as a contributing factor to meeting deadlines and being successful. And so whether it's local partnership or it's regional partnership, even on a statewide basis, it's very positive activities can go on, but we really have to take that idea that every potential worker in the state, whether that is somebody who's maybe, coming out of incarceration, it's a new high school graduate, maybe it's a single parent who's trying to get off of TANF or food share, somebody who's coming out of our foster care system, whatever it is, it really can't be ignored, because we don't have enough, we don't have enough people to ignore them, right? Even in the sense of that idea of somebody, well, this individual doesn't match what I need, but I've got a partnership, so I know that I'm going to refer them to another business or another prong in the project or whatever the case is. But you can't ignore it, because it will stop progress if that skilled workforce from your very entry level skills to your more significant 4-year degree type of programs and higher. It's just one of those things that it needs to stay kind of, I think, on the forefront. So thank you so much for having me. I do have to go. Everybody have a great day and hope to talk with you soon.
Thank you, Rhonda. Rebecca or Megan, any final thoughts?
I can jump in just real quick and, I think I can offer like a very, very, very high level overview, but the tech colleges are doing this on a regular basis. I think you heard from Northwood just how knowledgeable they are and how closely they're working with their local industry and their employers and being pretty nimble to what those needs are. So I would encourage like any continuing conversations to really reach out to kind of those tech colleges that have high needs in this area. And I think they really have the expertise to help kind of think about next steps.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think kind of my last thought is that we can certainly, we train individuals, we provide them skills and training prior to their release, but it's a competitive market out there. So there's many options and choices. So although, when we train someone in a high demand field, we hope that, right, they love it and they would want to continue and maybe re-enroll and take more courses and they find an employer that they enjoy working with. But sometimes that's not always the case and they might have other opportunities presented to them. So I think I just wanted to say that we certainly provide skilled training so people are able to obtain these high family sustaining jobs, but there's also a choice that the job seeker has. So.
Well, thank you. And I know Rhonda has dropped off already, and there was a question about workforce development. We'll follow up with Rhonda separately on that. And in the interest of time, we're going to hold on question and answers just because we have a few other items in the agenda to get to. But I want to thank our three panelists today, Becky, Rhonda, excuse me, and Megan for their time and their expertise sharing their views on workforce development here in the state of Wisconsin. Thank you, all three. The next item is an activity. So after 2 hours of discussions, we're going to have an activity which is going to be led by Kristen. Kristen, would you like to tell us what we'll be doing?
Sure thing. We are going to break up into small group discussions and unpack a lot of what we've heard over the last hour and 20 or hour and 30 minutes. So Rory and I will send you into discussion rooms fairly quickly. But first, for those of you who remember doing this last year, and I think we did this already at one previous meeting, but we will use Google Documents as our kind of collective workspace. This is a publicly viewable Google document, and I dropped the link to it in the chat just now. So you'll be able to click on that and either watch on your screen at home or watch what I'll share in a few minutes. What we'll do is we have a facilitator for each group. And I would like everyone to do a couple of things. First, unpack and talk about where the obstacles and the opportunities are for the broadband workforce. And second, talk about who needs to be part of the conversation around workforce and how should we communicate with this group of these different groups of stakeholders. So we're going to mind that a little bit. I see a lot of people are in the document already, and if I can share my screen, I'll show you what that looks like. You'll notice that up at the top, we do have a slide on homework results. 2 questions that we gave the group to contemplate over the last few weeks, and we'll come back to the second one a little bit later with the FCC challenges. But with regards to workforce, it was really clear in responses that each organization understands what they need from the workforce pipeline. And also there were a lot of very cheerful offers to help and to talk and how to work together in that. So we see, at least I see a lot of community around workforce between the different types of organizations we have, which is wonderful as we're trying to address this as a state. So with that, that's the instructions. And Rory, if you would not mind sending us into our groups.
All right, we're gonna give it a go here. Thanks for your patience, all. I'm gonna drop you into the groups, and it should automatically bump you to a room right now. So we're gonna do about 10 minutes of discussion, then we'll all come back and group back up after that. So let me give it a whirl here. All right, folks, if you're still here, you're not typically a member of the task force, so I didn't assign you to a room, but you are welcome to join a room and listen in. Just please speak up and let me know if you'd want me to dump you into a room.
I'm good.
I'm sorry, Biko, I missed you there. Let me add you to a room quickly here. All right, Dave, I will drop you in a room. Just give me a second. Hi, Representative Mercer. I saw you just joined here. We're in breakout rooms right now. If you want, I can drop you into one of those, or just about 4 or 5 minutes left, and then folks are going to rejoin and have a group discussion.
Yeah, I have sound on my phone, but I don't have it on my computer. So I was just trying to get the sound to my computer. So
Aha. Let me
throw me. You can throw me in the chat room, and it'll come over my phone again.
All right. Do you remember which room you were in?
I think room 1.
All right, I'll put you in there. Welcome back, folks. We're giving just about another 40 seconds or so for the rest of the rooms to close.
Do we have most facts, folks? Boy, do we have most folks back, Rory? That's a tongue
Yes, the room should have all closed. People are rejoining back now. Let's just give it a second to make sure everybody's here, but I think we're good to go. I'll leave it to Kristen to facilitate further.
Excellent. 10 minutes goes really quickly, doesn't it? Particularly when we're trying to wrap our arms around an opportunity with some obstacles as big as this one does. So let's do a quick report out. And why don't we start with group one? Group one, would you mind sharing with us what you discussed?
Any volunteers from group one?
I'll be the first to say I don't know what group number we were, so
Okay.
we keep doing.
My group was group one. Anyone in group one want to speak? I will happily talk, always. We talked, I feel like we're going to steal a lot of the answers, workforce development boards, all the different economic development organizations, regional, local, county committees, appointed folks. Talked about the importance of connecting to labor groups, particularly the Union of Operating Engineers. We talked about both local contractors and working closely with the contractors. Locate came up. Locate seems to come up in my work a lot, but some of the one of those bottlenecks is not having enough locators in the state that hold up work. Again, technical college programs, hiring local kids, youth apprenticeship, looking to high schools and veterans as kind of all the who is we should be engaging with in this conversation, and how through meetings, presentations, and then I thought the very straightforward advice of hire local kids and train them within the company to do the job you need them to do. Anything else from group one that I missed?
Thank you very much. So I see group two slides. Do we have anybody from group two?
Chris was group two. I'm calling him out.
I just got Rory's text. He's like, you're group two, Chris. So yes, we did meet. I did not enter stuff in the slides. I entered on my Post-it note because I was writing feverishly, but I'll fix that after we talk. From an obstacle standpoint, one of the things that we had talked a little bit about was that it sounds like there's a lot of funding out there for training. There was some mention from WSTA. There was mention of that from workforce development, but there's some specific requirements about who's eligible for that money and how it can be applied for. And so just understanding that is something that we felt would be important to understand. And then there was a comment made by, I think it was Rhonda towards the end, where she said that the efforts of workforce development and economic development are not aligned. And she didn't really go into details on that. We didn't have time for questions, but that sounded like a profound statement that we should pay attention to. On the opportunity side, we thought from an educational standpoint, the online and a la carte nature of classes is certainly something that's going to be advantageous. There are lots of scholarships. That's an opportunity, obviously, and with some obstacle of understanding how you can get to them. One of the things that was pointed out by Lori was that training really needs to grow in time, right? We're training broadband installers today with today's technology, but in 5 or 6 or 10 years, how do we retrain those broadband installers to have the new technology available? And then I think that was it, Rory. Oh, I'm sorry. We had one other thing on pipeline. And we talked a lot about Department of Corrections today, but there were suggestions made about the Boys and Girls Club. And Marta, before we went into our group session, had made a comment in the chat about what about something about broadband youth apprenticeship program? If we do that for stainless steel installers, why can't we do that for broadband installers and have kids getting this education in their last 2 years of high school before they even go to tech school? That is our report out.
Thank you very much, Chris. How about group three?
I can report out for group three unless anybody else wants to jump in. So we kind of covered, as far as obstacles, thinking about educating young people about these jobs and about the workforce, the broadband workforce. One things that resonated was thinking about a sticky story or messaging that really resonates with a lot of different populations throughout the state. Different opportunities we discussed were working more closely with specifically DPI and having all state agencies on the same page and at the table. Looking for different entry points for education and messaging with young people specifically. Talked a bit about the esports initiative that Northwood Tech is doing, and dual credit opportunities in high school for kind of bolstering training and workforce opportunities while focused on high school. And if anybody else from the group wants to add anything, please do so.
And just the only other thing that I mentioned at the end is a lot of our technical college campuses are starting to recruit for studying in the campuses international students. We have a pipeline issue. If we can have those students come here and study into the field of broadband, given the opportunity for them to technical, skills, they might want to stay here. Those are the students that might want to stay here and perhaps get an H-2B visa to be able to continue working here and eventually, move forward in their career. So that's another thing that might be an opportunity.
Thank you very much. And I facilitated group 4. Group 4 members, would anybody like to present what we talked about? Seeing no hands go up, I will go over what we spoke about. So we talked a lot about some of the things that are limiting workforce in general, lack of housing and lack of housing in rural areas, and also the lack of awareness of a career path among young workers, that we could use some promotional material or educational material around that these are not necessarily just stepping stone jobs. These are very good paying jobs that can provide a career path for decades for young people or adults that are willing to go into it. We talked a little bit about the diffuse communication channels for reaching adults that are looking for career opportunities. We know where to find teenagers and high school students and those who have just graduated, but if we're looking for adults in their 20s and 30s who may be looking to upskill and advance in a career, they're a little bit harder to find. The irony is that online training, which is a tremendous asset, also requires access to broadband. So there are some obstacles there for folks who are living in regions that aren't very well covered. Youth apprenticeship opportunities could be strong opportunities. The second semester spring awareness period of time where we can start advertising. There's a kind of a seasonality to how we can communicate or when we can communicate. That might be a good opportunity. For communities, this is a great opportunity to keep people within the community that want to live there and people who want to live in some of the more desirable areas of the state. All of the state's a great place to live, but there are some areas that are particularly enjoyable to live in, and opportunities to lift up some of our marginalized and historically underrepresented groups through employment in this. For communication around who needs to be part of the conversation, obviously the groups we saw today, but also a lot of the adjacent organizations that are working with communities and stakeholders that are helping to facilitate career decisions among people. So that was group 4. And I believe we only had 4 groups today. Is that correct, Rory? All right, so no group 5. Thank you all very much for your participation. As always, we're going to capture all of these thoughts and we're going to preserve them. They'll be useful when we sit down to write our report at the end of the year, and they'll help guide our conversation as we go forward and try to address some of these problems. So with that, back to you, Chris.
Well, and the thing you just did for me, Kristen, is you got us back on track. So thank you. So we're on time now. So item number 6, and really the last major item on our agenda today, is an overview of the FCC maps and updates from the Wisconsin Broadband Office. This is going to be led by Rory. Rory?
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I'm happy to take this away, and I'm going to have Alyssa tag in here too for some discussion. But first, the first big component here we'd like to talk to you about is the new FCC broadband maps. It's the talk of the town. There's been lots of press and lots of discussion. Our inboxes are buzzing. We're taking calls. We're hearing from all of you, and we just wanted to have an opportunity to give you an overview, talk you through the maps, talk you through what we're seeing, and just kind of give a general update to make sure everybody's on the same page. So, at a really high level, just to level set everybody so that we're all on the same page. And I'm sorry, most of you already know this. The FCC released first of their kind, location by location broadband maps last month. We can drop a link in chat. It's broadbandmap.fcc.gov, and it's a really revolutionary resource for us on the planning side, and we certainly imagine for communities and other broadband stakeholders in understanding where there's broadband, where there isn't, and a lot of detail about where there's still need and how we can leverage that data to target kind of a final build out of broadband and internet for all. So at a high level, what this means for us on the day-to-day is it's a great tool. We can better understand where broadband service is lacking, and it's also a tool for constituents and members of the community to look at the map and see where what service providers they have at their house, and who can they contact to get service. Looking at it from that lens, it's really important that it's accurate. And so a huge push by the FCC and states, internet service providers, and even communities is to make sure these maps are accurate. So right now we have entered into, the map is known as in its draft form right now. And so the FCC is calling upon states, providers, communities, members of the public to take a look at the map, evaluate it, and understand if it's accurate for their location, or for their area, their state, their service territory. And so there's a couple ways we can do this. We can evaluate the map. And so, on the state side, I will speak briefly. The way we evaluate the map is through a challenge process. And FCC has developed kind of a somewhat technical process for, what we call a bulk challenge, and that's where the state's going to be involved. So the state will be working with the data sets that we have, evaluating all sorts of different components of data that we have through our work to develop bulk challenges. And that'll be, we'll be looking statewide at service gaps, at areas where there's service, where we think maybe there shouldn't be service. We'll be compiling kind of an aggregated challenge of, several thousand points at very least, to upload to FCC and explain to FCC, hey, we looked at our maps, we think some of the data is off here, we'd like to improve that and fix that. And so that's what the state can do, and what the state is doing right now. We're working very hard for that. You've also probably heard there's a bit of a time crunch. The reason why everyone is so interested in the challenge process right now is because the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, that BEAD program, funded under the infrastructure law, is going to be based on these FCC maps. Congress was very forward thinking and sat down and said, in order to allocate really a historic amount of funding to broadband, we need to know where it is. So they've relied on FCC to produce these maps and use them to evaluate where there's service. And so FCC and NTIA, the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, has indicated to us that any challenges that can be made by January 13th are going to be taken into consideration when NTIA and FCC sit down and allocate that $40 billion pot of money to every individual state to then use to make broadband grants and fund broadband. So, there's money at stake, but there's also, important planning to be done. Without being too tedious about the details, there's also a big opportunity here we see for individuals and communities to get involved in this planning process, to get involved in this challenge process. And that's focused on the individual challenge, not the bulk challenge kind of the state is doing, but the individual challenge. When we're talking about the individual challenge, I'm gonna punch up the map in a minute and give you guys a little bit of a tour, but to us, in evaluating the FCC's process and the requirements that FCC is imposing for challenging the map, we see a real opportunity and kind of the best source of information as individuals, at households and businesses who know their broadband service best. I will never step into somebody's house and tell them I know better about their broadband internet, because lots of times when they have trouble accessing the internet, they have tried every single option, so they know. So we're encouraging in the broadband office and at the PSC, we're encouraging all of our stakeholders on this call who we know are very involved in a lot of these questions of availability across the state to please get the word out. Individual citizens of Wisconsin are welcome to challenge the map and encouraged. We see individual homeowners and business owners as the perfect place to know what is and isn't available at your location. So I'll talk through this. Certainly, there's lots of resources online. We will drop in chat. The FCC has put together kind of a broadband map outreach toolkit. We encourage you all to grab that toolkit, use their media graphics, their messaging, and push out the word, because a big component of this challenge process is going to be making sure that the community is looking at the map in their area and evaluating its authenticity and accuracy. So, I will say one thing before we dive into the actual map itself. August Neverman was on the call earlier and identified this. One real big challenge with the way the FCC challenge process is structured is the FCC through this process is focused on the availability of broadband and internet service at any given location. And the criteria they have for these challenges is talking about availability. Now, what does that mean? Availability is talking about, in the FCC's mind, advertised service at any given location. And the question is basically, under a standard routine installation, could an internet service provider, typically I think it's within 10 days, provide you internet service if you requested it? No extraordinary fees, no extraordinary connection costs, just a standard installation. A tech would come out, maybe give you some equipment, plug it in, and you'd be good to go. There's been a lot of questions and concerns, and we hear these concerns often about performance of broadband speed. Broadband speeds where the advertised speed is 100 by 20, but realistically on an even day, you maybe only get 50 by 10. And so that is a real concern. FCC is evaluating that and keeping a track of that. But unfortunately, the way this challenge process is structured, there's not an opportunity to submit complaints or challenges based on the performance of broadband at your location. It's really focused on that advertised speed. So with that said, there's certainly limitations, but there's still lots of opportunities to evaluate broadband service, make sure the providers are doing what they need to at your location. So all of that said, I'm going to give a little tour here for just a couple minutes, and then I'll give some time over to Alyssa to talk about the other fun things going on in our broadband office. But I just want to give you guys a view of the map, what we're seeing, and just a general familiarity with the broadband map overall. Are you guys seeing my screen okay here? All right. So, at the high level, this is the broadband map, and it's really, this is what it looks like for Wisconsin, but you'll notice there's a little bit of confusing messaging here. If you look on the side, and we've gotten this comment from a number of folks, if you look on the side, there's these percentage of units covered, and it says, Wisconsin, 98.31% of all locations in Wisconsin have 25 by 3 service. We know that's not true. And part of the reason why is this graph here takes into account a lot of different measurements that we don't typically look at when we're talking about served broadband service. So we encourage you, when you're playing around with this map, to go to the settings. There's kind of this filter button on the side. Make sure you're selecting the right criteria here. So when we're talking about the BEAD program, the criteria are wired and licensed fixed wireless service that's exceeding 25 by 3. So you can plug that in. You'll see you'll see the service, it'll change. Here, I'll pull back. Let's do any technology. Look, see how it's all filled in? That's how you see kind of that 98% number. But if you're filtering right, you're going to be excluding unlicensed fixed wireless and satellite internet, which are very common in Wisconsin. It's a great stopgap source for a lot of broadband internet for folks in the hardest to reach areas. But for the BEAD program, it looks a little bit different, and it'll obviously change as you zoom in. Southern Wisconsin is not quite as served as you think it is once you zoom in and get that granularity. So unfortunately, this graph on the side does not update when you change these filters. So please don't be scared by this number. It's not the be all end all for Wisconsin. That's what it looks like for 25 by 3. BEAD eligible locations are any location that lacks 100 by 20. So if you do those filters and play those games, it looks like a very different story at 100 by 20 view. I'll also keep looking here. You can play around. You can click on the tab on the top. I'm calling out Angie here with TDS. You can plug in providers and pick the technology types, and you can kind of get a view of any given provider on the broadband map. I'll just keep clicking through. I'm calling out Celeste on this one. Thanks for being members and bearing with me as I tease you. Here's what it looks like for Charter. They have lots of cable and fiber to the premises service all over the state. So you can play around with that. Certainly there's these hexagonal views, and that's how it aggregates at the highest level. But if you zoom, eventually you'll get in to a more specific view, and then you'll start seeing, let's see if I can get close enough. Once you zoom in enough, you'll start to be able to see the individual points. So we've also got some smaller providers. Here's Norvado, here's Reedsburg Utility Commission. So, lots of views by providers. Now, I will take the opportunity to give a guinea pig here. I don't know who this is. I just grabbed this location right off the map. But if you are an individual or trying to encourage individuals to challenge the map, you can go to broadbandmap.fcc.gov, plug in your address and click search, and it'll pull it right up. And this is what it'll look like. And again, you can go to the side there and filter to make sure you're evaluating it based on the criteria you want. Particular for this one, I'll go again for kind of the fully served by bead measurement. And you'll see a lot of points are served here. This one is not. If you look, you'll see there's copper, there's licensed fixed wireless, there's satellite, but none of those are performing by that 100 by 20 standard. So if you're in this location and you feel like some of this information is wrong, maybe Frontier isn't actually available to provide service to your location, you can click that availability challenge. You'll click Frontier. You'll fill in contact information, and this will be submitted to FCC. And then you'll have to click send the challenge to the provider. And then really this key point here is select the reason for the challenge. And I mentioned this before, the criteria for a challenge is basically focused on availability. Are you, if you request service, can you receive it within 10 days through a standard installation? So if you said, I requested service, but they charged me higher than a service fee, you can put that information in, provide that feedback, and FCC will basically pull your point off the map and say, you are not served in this location by that provider. I'll emphasize this. If the provider does not offer the speeds reported to be available at this location, you can plug that in, you can describe your experience, but it's not a manner of actually issuing a challenge. I'm sorry, so this one, actual speed of service does not match the advertised speed. If you'll click that, it'll explain to you that that's not a challenge, but you can still use this to kind of submit a complaint to FCC. So at a really high level, you could click around this broadband map all day. I sure do, but what we're seeing and what we see as the biggest opportunity for a lot of our members and of our stakeholder group in our community here is encouraging that outreach to individuals to engage with the map, because individuals have the best information about if there's actual broadband service available at their location. So, we're doing a lot of outreach, a lot of discussions with the press and advertisements and announcements through our media channels. We encourage you to use that FCC outreach toolkit as well. I'll drop that in the chat. And for now, I'll leave it there. I know Alyssa has a lot she wants to talk about as well. So I'll, if anyone has questions, we don't quite have time yet today, but if you have questions, you can reach out to me and I can help you understand or answer some questions as well. So Alyssa, anything else on FCC map, or you want to start talking about other things?
No, I think that was really great. And I just wanted to, what a nice tour. And we're still kind of floating these. So, but and I'm stealing somebody else's creative energy, but we're really hoping residents in the state will be badgering the FCC for the next month so we can get our locations right. So please encourage people to badger the FCC, type their address into that map, and make sure the information about their household is correct, because we want Wisconsin to get we want the best map for our planning, and we want the best map to get our fair share of the federal dollars. Matt Sweeney. Are you raising your hand or just telling me how great I am?
Just telling you how great you are.
Rachel, did you have a question too?
I put it in the chat. I was wondering about if the public has completed the WISER regarding availability, no availability at their location. Is that being incorporated in the state challenge, or do they need to do the FCC challenge separately?
They need to do the state FCC challenge separately, because when we did WISER, we unfortunately did not ask to submit their data to the FCC because the challenge, we designed our survey before the challenge process. And so there's some information that we can't just submit to another federal agency on behalf of people.
Okay, thank you. That's the same with schools who have asked their families regarding internet access where they live. That data is not being provided to the FCC from DPI for this. So schools would need to promote this.
Okay. So last up, in just our last few minutes, Dr. Baker, I think is not here today, but I just, he did a great job. I just wanted to say on Monday at noon, the chair of the PSC and the governor and an assistant deputy secretary from NTIA met in Milwaukee and announced that the state has received our BEAD planning dollars. So that's the $5 million to plan for the broadband, and then $952,000 and a very long, precise number, for digital equity planning. And so our planning processes have officially begun. We've known they were coming for a long time, but the announcements have been made, which means the funding and the planning processes are very officially kicked off. And so I wanted to make sure everybody here knew that. And then let people know that there's a memo up at our commission right now that the commission's contemplating some of the way that some of those planning dollars will be structured and how we'll support communities and nonprofits and the people who are engaged in planning with the commission and with the state. And so it's in a docket. If you're familiar with the commission, we will make sure to put a link in the chat or send it out. Look at that, Rory, you're so fast. So, but it's just a memo and explains what the commission might do with the money, and that memo is open for comment. And so I just wanted to make sure that if task force members are interested, or if you have constituency groups that might be interested in sort of the beginning of the planning processes, that memo is a great reference document. We certainly will continue to be taking the advice and expertise and of this task force as we continue to move forward. So you will be deeply and consistently engaged.
And I just want to sound here. This is Biko. I'm here. I just was late. I teach at this time, so to jump on after class.
Thank you so much for being here. Dr. Baker helped speak in Milwaukee when we announced. I don't know if you wanted to add any comment.
No, I just thankful to be involved in this. Is learning a lot and it's historic. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks so much for being part of the kickoff event. I know we're very close to time, Chris. I don't know if any task force members have questions for staff.
One thing I will say right before we get to any other questions, we did also, it's a crazy week for us in the Broadband office. We did announce a new grant round for state funding. We have $14 million of state funding that we are trying to give away to support good broadband projects in Wisconsin. There's lots of information on the websites. Call me, email me if you have questions. We're accepting applications now through February 22nd. So that's one more pot of money to draw from. It's not related to these federal programs that we're talking about, but certainly another great opportunity to get a project funded in your location.
Thank you, Roy. Too many exciting announcements for the state of Wisconsin and broadband land this week.
Are there any other questions from the group or anybody in the broadband office? I was hoping to give a better present for Christmas to everybody than 1 minute extra back in your day, but I guess we take what we can take, right? So thank you all for your time, and from all of us on the committee, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and we look forward to talking to you more in the new year. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, everyone.